Athletes from all over the world share a remarkable bond. No matter where they come from or which sports they dedicate themselves to, they are all driven by a powerful why. For most, it's not about fame or wealth. Only a rare few reach that level. Instead, they are fueled by a deep passion for their sport, a love for discipline, and an unending desire to push their own limits. From early mornings to grueling workouts and countless sacrifices, athletes are guided by an inner drive, a commitment to excellence that goes beyond personal gain. They don't just compete, they inspire, representing dedication, resilience, and an unbreakable spirit to be at their best. This is shared why connects them, creating a global community of individuals who break records, push boundaries, and show that greatness happens when passion meets purpose. Caryn, thank you so much for taking the time for this interview. I am so impressed with your journey and everything you have built so far. I follow you through LinkedIn. You share very insightful content and also on motherhood and working, and all of that is just so inspiring. So thank you so much to start with.
Raina, thank you. It's great to be here.
All right. You are an Olympian. You're an Olympic champion. You did it like 3 times Olympic medal. And
yeah, that's right.
Is that right or more than 3 times?
Yes, no. I went to the games 3 times, medaled 3 times, 1 silver and 2 golds.
That's an amazing, impressive result. I know because I am a 4-time Olympian and I have never win any medals. And this is, when you're Olympian, when you're training all of your life, almost half time of your life for that journey. And so it's very important journey. And that's why I really wanted to have that conversation with you.
Well, of course, we both know that you train just as hard, whether or not you win a medal. So we've been on the same journey.
Yes, we're in the same journey, but still this little thing that makes a difference, I really would like us to talk about it. Where did you change your mindset? How did you do from the beginning to level up your game? What kind of triggers made you change, or get to another level? These are things that are really interesting, I think. So before we start, where are you staying currently?
I live in Boston, Massachusetts.
All right. And so you represented USA. Can you tell us a little bit who you are for those who don't know?
Yeah. I don't think we've mentioned my sport yet. I was an Olympian in rowing.
Yes.
I started rowing, well, it was in high school. For many sports, that's actually quite late. I was 14 when I started rowing, but for rowing, that's about normal. I was in the supermarket and I'm very tall. I'm 6'4". That's, I think, 193 for all those who use metric. And the coach of the local high school team spotted me in the supermarket and he strode up purposefully and he was this big gruff guy and he said, "I want you for rowing." And I was terrified and I hid behind my father. But my father said, "Yeah, she could do that." So I went down to the boathouse and gave it a try. And I found I was a natural. I was quite good at it. And the thing about that is when you're good at something, you like it. And then when you like it, you do it more. And so it was this virtuous cycle where I got better and better until rowed at university and ended up on the Olympic team.
That's amazing because when you were 14, did you practice already some kind of sports? Were you into sports or did you have
I did all the sports.
What did you do?
I did all of them and I was bad at all of them. I did skiing, I did tennis, I did softball, I did soccer, I did volleyball.
Okay.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, so you were already quite into sport. I think this coach saw your athleticism already from very far.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the first thing we all share, almost like someone saw
something particular, a specific talent that we even didn't see, and that kind of mentorship, it's just precious. What was your
Mm.
relationship with that first trainer? Did he give you like the inspiration to keep going on, or you had already a game plan in your mind that you're going to make it
Mm.
to the Olympics? How did you progressively became like a champion in your mind?
Actually, it was my brother who first kind of showed me what was possible. He also started rowing around the same time.
Mm.
They just needed more men down at the boathouse, so they recruited him too. And he ended up spending his summer rowing with the junior national team, and I saw that and thought, well, I would like to do that too. He was 2 years older, so 2 years later, it was my turn.
Yeah, so you kind of follow his footsteps.
Mhm.
Um, there was a local Olympic team in Boston, where you from, or this is not where you're from in the USA?
Oh, I'm from upstate New York in a small town, but what happens with rowing is if you show some promise, then you get invited to a camp, and it depends what team it is, where the camp is, but basically everyone from around the nation convenes in one place, and generally the women's Olympic team trained in Princeton, New Jersey.
And how old were you when you were invited to go to this place?
The first junior national camp I was invited to, I was 17.
17. So
Mm.
you followed really the routes like Olympic youth uh, journey, right? So you've been
Mhm.
training, and then you've been part of the youth team, and then you competed at what kind of international competition did you do?
Junior World Championships. Yeah.
And
And then
did you excel? Were you already part of the best rowers, or was that a difficult time to find your power, your strengths?
that went very well.
Mhm.
The US, I think because we have quite a strong junior program, always does well.
Yeah,
So we won a medal at the Junior World Championships, and then once I aged out of that, I went to the senior team, and actually my first Senior World Championships, we won a gold medal. So that was a really
amazing.
nice taste of success. Yeah.
That's amazing. How could you describe your sports? Because it's a collective sport, but there is a lot of personal work that has to be done in order to be part of the team, but also to perform well in the team, to bring everybody together. Like there are many different components in that sport. How would you describe your sport in that sense, both
Mm.
personally, individually, and in the collective dynamics?
One of the really interesting dynamics about rowing is you spend most of your time competing against each other. And
Oh,
by that, I mean like competing against the women who will ultimately be part of your team. Um, so when I was on the team, we selected the Olympic team, like the final Olympic team,
mm,
only a couple weeks before we actually left for the games. So all the way up until then, you were competing against these women to get a
wow.
spot in the boat. And you have to we have this concept called we call leaving it on the water, where you get in the boat and you compete as hard as you can, and it's actually sort of you're helping your teammates by pushing them in that way.
Mm,
So we all know, like as soon as you get in the boat, like I am trying to beat you, but once you get back to the dock,
yeah.
then and we get out of the boat, then we're teammates again and we support each other. So we try not to let that competitiveness carry over into other parts of our interactions.
Mm,
Because, of course, when the team is selected, all of a sudden, then you have to work together. You're no longer competing against each other, you're competing with each other.
yeah.
And I think that's one of the things our team did very well.
So if I understand, main part of your trainings where you train individually against each other, or is there a
Mhm.
boat with one, two, three rowers? Sorry if I don't pronounce it right. And then that's the for the coach to decide who has performed the best. How do you appreciate a performance? Whether in athletics it's very obvious. There is
Right,
the
right.
time and you are first, second, or third, and,
Yeah.
and it's very clear. So how do you stand out from the crowd,
Yeah.
let's say?
We spend a lot of time in smaller boats, singles, pairs.
Yeah.
And so then it's very similar. You have races,
Hmm.
and whoever crosses the line first was the fastest that day. We also do races in bigger boats because if you're going to be in a bigger boat, it's a slightly different skill. And uh, the way you assess someone in a bigger boat is you have two, let's say, two eights race each other, and then you just switch two people out of eight, and then you race them again. And the margins, which boat won the first time, by how much, whatever, you can actually figure out between those two people who moves the boat faster.
Whoa, that's very subtle because everyone has his own strengths, power, way of moving forward. How can you see the difference?
Yeah, it's not perfect. Sometimes you have to do it over and over again many times if people are very close.
Yeah.
Um, it also and it depends on the other rowers in the boat, right? I remember one year, the coach right at the 11th hour brought in someone from outside that many of us had never met before. It was right before the final team was going to get named. He just wanted to give her a chance because she'd been doing well at her university squad,
Okay.
and I think she was very fast. And from within the team, you could tell that our attitude was like, "Who is this girl? We don't trust her. We don't know her. We don't trust her." So we did a race with her in the boat, and then we switched and we had the teammate that we'd been training with for 4 years, and you could just tell that everyone else in the boat was like, "This is our girl. Like we want this person in the boat." So the woman we'd been training with for many years won by a lot, and I think it was a mental thing.
So, in the same time, difficult, and you have to be able to have that team spirit or leadership to think about, okay, I want to win, and I'm going to create the best team possible in order to win. But when you are young, how do you develop that kind of mindset? Because you get into sport as a youngster, as
Mm.
uh, clo close after to puberty. So some children have that naturally. They develop this team leadership. How was that for you?
I don't think I really developed it until my second Olympic Games, and I remember when
Oh,
it happened.
yeah.
Um, so when I was younger, I thought, all right, my job is to be as fast as I can be.
Mhm.
Uh, Train hard, work hard, go fast. Um, and I did notice that some of the times I was most successful were when I was able to like bring a boat together. Um, but I didn't see that as my main job.
Mhm.
Then I was put in the stroke seat of the boat. The stroke seat is you're sitting at the back of the boat,
Yeah.
but it's the front of the line because rowers are facing backwards. So you set the rhythm and the pace of the boat. And the coach put me there because I was very good technically. Um, and this was leading into the 2008 Beijing Olympic
Mhm.
Games. We were doing it was like maybe a month before the games. We were doing some race pieces on the water. He had out his stopwatch and we crossed the line. He clicks it, picks up his megaphone, and he says, "All right, take it back to the dock. I'll meet you upstairs." We all thought, well, what's going on? So we go back to the dock, we go upstairs, and he says, that wasn't good enough. That time was slow. And we all kind of look at the floor and dejectedly think, oh dear. And he said, you guys need to figure out what you're going to do in the
Mhm.
next 3 weeks before we leave for the games to get faster if you want to win a gold medal. And everyone kind of files out of the room, not saying anything. And I didn't leave. I sat there. I was all alone at this point. I sat there with my head in my hands thinking, all right, I'm setting the pace for this boat. There must be something I can do. Like I am basically the de facto leader of this boat. Um, and I actually decided that I was going to row an unsustainable pace for me because I thought it kind of just felt like we were all trying but not trying together, right? Like that's a
Mhm.
very common
Mhm.
problem. And I thought if I can just really put us into a rhythm and a pace straight from the start that like makes everyone pay attention. Maybe we'll come together as a boat.
Hmm.
And I knew that I couldn't sustain that pace for the whole race, but I also knew that if we came together as a boat, then we would, together be able to go farther than one person could alone.
Yes.
Um, so I tried that and it totally worked. A few days later, we did another race piece. It was way faster. It was very painful. As you know, like if you go as hard as you can straight from the start, it's quite a painful experience, but it worked. Like the together, we were just able to sustain that pace all the way to the end when I could never have done that alone. And I realized that my job in the stroke seat of that boat was not to have my own best performance. It wasn't to like row the pace and the rhythm that would bring me across the line the fastest. It was to help everyone else have their best performance and to row in a way that we together would would be our fastest. Um, and that really just informed everything I did after that. I just
Mm.
knew that my job was to help everyone else be fast, not necessarily
What,
to
what,
be
was that a
fast myself.
painful realization?
I mean, physically painful, yes.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, before you go on it, huh, because then you realize, okay, like sometimes the ego, can really strike.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, well, in a strange way, it actually made me realize that I was more important than I thought. So it was, it wasn't painful because
Mm.
I was always actually one of the physiologically weaker women on the team.
What,
Like if we,
6 foot 5?
I'm lanky. Um, so we do you also asked how we assess, the coaches assesses us. So we get on rowing machines. You see them in gyms all the time, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And if you row on that, it doesn't necessarily tell you how fast you're going to go on the water because it doesn't take technique into account, but it
Mm-hmm.
does measure just raw power. And I was
Yeah.
never at the top of that ranking.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because I felt like, why, I'm working as hard as everyone else. Why can't I be as strong as everyone else?
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that actually my strength was something different. It was helping other people, as I said, row their best. So it actually helped me realize how important I was to the team.
Yeah, another kind of leadership.
Yeah.
So less relying on pure power strengths, but more on strategic thinking and
Yeah.
visionary.
Yeah. More of a team approach, if you will,
Did
instead of
you
an individual
translate it?
approach.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Did you translate it as well, like the way you talk to your teammates? How did you communicate with them? Were you boosting them, motivating them? Did they accepted your leadership, let's say?
I didn't change much then how I presented myself off the water. I like to think I was always a supportive teammate, but I didn't consciously
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
change what I did. That actually came later. So yeah, through the 2008 and 2012 games, that was our two gold medals. And actually, it's funny. I didn't tell anyone that that's what I was doing. I didn't tell anyone that I was going to row a pace that I knew was unsustainable for me. And I told my teammates like 15 years later. I was like, guys, this is how I approached that race. And one of them said,
Oh.
I'm really glad you didn't tell me that at the time because I really would have worried that we were going to fly and die, that we were going to get
Okay.
slow down at the end of the race.
Okay. We need to understand for those who have no clue what is the intensity of that kind of race. Like,
Yeah.
how does it feels like? What does it looks like? Like mentally,
Yeah.
physically, emotionally, like what kind of effort is that?
Well, I've seen people pass out before the end of the race. I mean, it doesn't happen
Yeah.
that frequently, but it has happened that I've seen Olympians pass out. Um, it's not that unusual, especially on the rowing machine tests, for
Yeah.
someone to throw up afterwards from the intensity of the effort. So really hurts. Uh,
And how long did
and
you had to sustain the team on that pace? Like the distance?
yeah, it's 2,000 meters. So about a mile, what's that? A mile and a quarter.
Ooh,
And that takes us around 6 minutes. So the first 45 seconds you're in anaerobic, you feel amazing, you don't feel anything. After about 45 seconds, a little of the pain starts to set in. After about halfway, like that's when you're really hurting. And then in the last minute, yeah, you basically you just have to take your mind to another place because the pain is
yeah.
that bad. Yeah. When we crossed the finish line, both times we won gold, I did not have enough energy to celebrate. I looked like I was, yeah, I looked like we had
Zombie.
not accomplished our goals. Like I was very upset because I just slumped over my oar, and I was like, my teammate behind me went to hug me shortly after we crossed the finish line, and I still had so much lactic acid in my muscles that it actually hurt for her to touch me. And so I just said, "Don't touch me." And I needed like several minutes
Oh
before
my
I
goodness.
could smile and congratulate her. Yeah.
That's true madness, really. But
So the going back to what my teammate said, right? Like she might have worried if I had told her that was my plan, she might have worried that I was going to pass out before the finish line, right?
yes, yes.
But I had actually already been practicing it in the weeks leading up to the games, so I knew it would work. But no, I didn't tell anyone. And then it was years later that I stepped into that role of like trying to be more supportive off the water. Um, and that was in 2019. I had already been retired for 7 years, and
Mm,
I decided that I wanted to come out of retirement to try to make the Olympic team one more time for Tokyo.
wow.
And it's a whole nother story why I did that, but
Yes, yes, yeah. I'm curious to know.
um, well, in short, I was working as a lawyer. I wasn't I wasn't super happy. Um, kind of just searching for my purpose, right? And I realized that I could probably still make another Olympic team. And I thought, well, if you have the chance, the opportunity to be the best in the world at something, even if it's for the fourth time, you should probably take it.
Mm,
Um, so I quit my job, went back to training.
wow.
Um, but I knew that like it was quite a long shot because I was almost 40 at that point. So I wasn't sure if I was going to make the team, and I wanted it to be worth it having quit my job and moved to a different state, whether or not I made the team. So I realized, to your question, that
Mm,
I had not worked as hard being a supportive teammate off the water as I had on.
mm,
So I wanted to be the best teammate I could be just holistically.
mhm,
And I also wanted to learn something because I just felt like there was something that I
mhm,
was,
mhm.
missing that I could learn in rowing. And those are goals you can accomplish whether or not you make the team. So I packed my car, I drove down to Princeton, New Jersey, and in my head I had this image of arriving at the boathouse and being welcomed back into the team as this grandmother, mentor. Everyone would want to learn from me because all these teammates were, I mean, some of them were almost 20 years younger than I was, right?
Yes, yes, that's for sure.
Um, and that's not how it happened. I showed up and everyone kind of gave me the side eye, like, who are you and what are you doing here? I mean, they obviously knew who I was, but more, what are you doing here? And I wasn't prepared for that. And I thought, well, okay, I just have to earn my place before I can be a mentor. I have to prove that I belong here. So I kind of put my head down and worked as hard as I could. And I started getting faster, still near the bottom of the group, but I started getting faster. And I thought, okay,
Whoa,
maybe this.
amazing. At
I thought,
40, how much?
I think I was 37 at that
Wow.
time. But yeah, I was working my way up the ranks. And I actually ended up almost almost doing a personal record on some of our fitness tests. So like
Ah,
it was
interesting.
that was going well. but I was still not that, I still hadn't assumed that role that I
Mhm.
imagined for myself. And I was so because of that, I felt like I wasn't accomplishing my goal, which was to be a good teammate. And then COVID hit. So the team disbanded. Everyone kind of went home and was training in isolation. And I had this decision to make, like, do I want to keep doing this? At that point, we didn't even know if the Olympic Games was going to happen.
Yes,
And
yes,
then it was postponed for a year. And then I was like,
yes.
do I want
The
to do this
whole
a whole nother
story.
year?
Yeah.
And I almost quit, but I thought, all right, I have another chance to accomplish my goal. Like, what am I going to do differently this time around? And so I called up every one of my teammates over that summer, that COVID summer, and I asked her one question. I said, what can I do to be a better teammate to you?
Mm.
And most most of my teammates were just like floored. Like no one has ever asked me that. I got some really good feedback. Some of it was really harsh. Some of it was not useful. One woman I'd known for a long time said, I have nothing good to say about you, and I don't think you deserve to be in the boat that won gold in 2012. And I was like, wow, all right,
Why?
that
Where
was
does that
interesting.
come from? Where that does come? Yeah. How jealousy, envy? Where?
Yeah, I think that had more to do with her not being in a good place mentally herself
Okay.
than anything about me. Yeah, so that was not helpful feedback. And actually, I said, okay, well, thanks for letting me know, but what can I do to be better, right? Like that
Yeah.
didn't actually answer my question. Another woman who I'd known for a while gave me some really helpful feedback. She said, everyone here thinks you're entitled. I said, what? Well, you act like you can just show up here and make the team without even trying.
Mm. Hmm.
And that was so surprising to me because that was not how I felt inside. I felt very insecure. I felt
Oh,
very, I felt like I was quite a long shot to make the team.
yeah.
But what they saw was me being shy, right? Me being quite closed off
Yeah.
because as I said,
Introvert.
I put my head down and I was like, if I just work hard, now I say work hard, but like for me, at 37, that looks different than it did at, 21 when I
Yes.
was training for my first Olympic team. So for the people who didn't know like how hard it is to train at 37, it looked like I wasn't trying and I wasn't interested in being part of the team almost. So what I did when we came back together as a team, I was just much more vulnerable with what I was
Mm.
going through. I shared, like, this is really hard for me. I am always tired. I can't do the kind of performances that I used to when I was younger. And I also said, but I know that's not my contribution to this team. How can I help? As I said, like
Okay.
in my
So you,
conversations, like, how can I help you?
yes.
So I just tried to be more open. I gave advice. I asked people, how are you doing? Like, what are you struggling
Mm.
with? And then I finally stepped into that role of mentor that
Mm.
I wanted so badly from the start. So that was a long way to answer your question. That yeah, I did end up being that mentor off the water. I didn't make the team. That's the second half of the story.
You didn't make the team.
No, things were going very well. I mentioned that I was going faster. I was faster in 2020 than I had been in 2012, at least on some metrics, right?
Why, well, how
Um,
can you explain that just quickly, the difference between your approach to training, your mindset? What were the key factors for your improvements?
I think a lot of it came down to my mindset. I was just determined to love every second of it. I was like,
Okay, love.
this is definitely my last time around. I just every like fitness test, I just threw myself into it without fear.
Hmm.
And the fitness test that I mentioned, I was almost at a personal record. I started it thinking like I looked around the room and I was like, I love everyone here. I love this sport. This is just going to be so great. Whatever happens, like I am going to enjoy this. And I think when you put yourself in that positive mindset and you're not afraid of failure, because I was like, oh man, like I've already failed so many times this year. Um, it it unlocks a level of performance that was previously unavailable. So I
Yes.
probably wasn't as strong, but I was able to get more out of myself.
So why do you explain that you didn't make it at the end?
Yeah, so I got injured. And it was one of these dumb things. I was stretching and like pulled something, and it part of the problem was it didn't get properly diagnosed for 3 months because of COVID. I couldn't see a doctor and get
Mm-hmm.
the diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually riding the exercise bike. I wasn't rowing for 3 months, and
Yeah.
that's tough, right? Like you can't do your sport for 3 months. You lose a lot of specific fitness.
Mm.
And I remember I'd be in the back of the boat bay, just like sweat pouring down my face, riding this exercise bike, and I would watch the rest of the team like pick up their boats and walk out into the sunshine, and I just felt like I was watching this Olympic
Yeah.
dream kind of
Go.
recede into the distance.
Yeah.
So I really struggled. I did a lot of crying by myself in the locker
Yeah.
room,
Yeah.
but and actually people noticed. They're like, it's so amazing, like how hard you're working and how you're still showing up with all this adversity.
Mm-hmm.
I was really struggling because I was injured, and at the same time I tried to make it really clear to everyone, like I'm here for us. I'm not just here for me. Even if I'm not going to make the team, I can still contribute to
Mm-hmm.
this team's success. Um,
Did that work, do you think, at the end, to when the team did the team win a medal to the Olympics of Tokyo? What was the results?
they did not. And actually, so there was a lot of kind of team dynamic issues
Hmm.
that were still unresolved as of Tokyo that I don't like. I tried to help, but there was at some level it was beyond my beyond my fixing and beyond my control. But um, so I mentioned I was just trying to be very helpful to everyone,
Yeah.
and then eventually the coach called me into his office and he said, "I think you know what I'm going to say." And I've known this coach for 20 years, so I know him pretty well. And I said, "Yeah, I do. You know, you're gonna cut me, right? Like I'm not gonna be part of this team." And he said, "Yes, I can't give you any more chances. This is it." But
Mm.
then he said something I didn't expect. He said, "A lot of these women who are going to go to the games in Tokyo don't know what it means to be an Olympian. They may never know. But you've shown with your actions in support of this team over the last 3 months that you are a true Olympian."
Wow.
And I gathered my stuff and I walked out of his office and I just felt like I was going to cry. And I didn't want to cry in front of everybody. So there was a group, the group of women who were eventually made the team. They were sitting by the door of the boat bay stretching, and I just got my bag and walked right by them. Didn't even say goodbye.
Oh,
And
that's a
the
very harsh end.
I knew that if I said anything that I would just start crying, and they were about to go do their training. They didn't need that. But the woman who gave me that feedback, she said to me later, she said, when you did that, when you got your bag and you walked out without saying goodbye, I thought, this can't be the way Caryn Davies ends her rowing career. She's a legend.
Mm.
But that's not how it ended. Over the next few days, I ended up getting messages from most of those women thanking me for being part of the team, for helping them get better. One woman said, I couldn't have gotten through this year without you. And getting those messages, I realized that in a lot of ways, I'd won something more important than a gold medal, and that was the love and respect of my teammates. So I did end up accomplishing my goal in the end.
So do you think that was what you were searching for when you had this break from your first part of your career, then you moved into the corporate world, and then you went back? Do you think that was you were searching for?
I do, yeah. And I mean, I love and respect my teammates from before, but that was more of a, that just came naturally. I didn't have to work for it in that way.
Mm.
You know, after you win an Olympic medal, it feels amazing for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then you kind of look around, you put your head up and you look around and you think, wait, I'm still the same person.
Uh-huh.
And I still have all the same fears and insecurities that I did before. Like this, I thought this would change everything and it didn't. And that's actually a very depressing realization. Like there are a lot of Olympians, actually, whether or not you win a medal, just going to the Olympics. I wonder if you experience this too. Like
Yeah, it
afterwards,
took me
you're
five
just
years to
like,
get out of my personal depression of not having making a medal. Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
yeah,
So it took me 4 or 5 years to really get the lesson, the essence of that journey of mine.
yeah. And when you've spent that long focused on that one thing, you feel lost, right? You don't have
Yeah.
that goal anymore. And even if you've achieved it, you still don't have the goal anymore.
Mm.
You're not working towards it anymore. One, there was one man who said to me, if I were you, I would never have a bad day. I would just put on my Olympic medals and I would look at myself in the mirror and I'd be like, you're amazing. And I felt profoundly sad when he said that
Oh,
because that's how I wanted it to be, but it wasn't.
and
And
why? Why?
because you're like I said, you're still the same person
Hmm.
after you've won. Like it doesn't change anything about who you are.
Hmm.
And yeah, you've done something pretty interesting, but it's over. You did it, right? Like it's in the past. Um,
That's so incredible what you're saying. Like we all like kind of chasing, I know we know now the truth, you just have to get to that experience of failure or success and finally to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, well, and what was the purpose of all of that? Was that worth it?
exactly.
And
What was the point? And I for many years I was like, what even was the point? If I spent all those years, now mind you, they were fun. Like I had a great time training.
yeah.
But like what exactly was I what did I need if not the Olympic gold medal? Like what was I searching for?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a lot of why I went back. And I was like, there's something here to learn. Like what is it about rowing that kept me coming back?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized in that last cycle when I had to work so hard for that community, I realized what I was really searching for all those years, what I really wanted out of rowing was a feeling of belonging,
Yeah.
a feeling like I had a community of people around me and that I matter
Mm-hmm.
to them. And I got that. I mean, I think I always had it, but I didn't know it. And having to work so hard for it that last time, I was like, oh, okay. And once you know what you're actually looking for, then you can look for it outside of athletics. I finally felt like, okay, I can hang up my oar. I mean, I still row recreationally, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm done competing because now I know how to find what I need.
A belonging that is not related to your sense of worth in terms of performance and results or
Yeah, yeah,
controlling the outcome, but more like this state of joy, bliss.
yes, yeah. Because of course, when I think probably for all of us, certainly for me, when we first start in our sport, we get that sense of worth from our performance.
Yeah,
But that's a dangerous place to be in because you can't always perform well.
yeah.
You're going to have bad days and you're going to get older,
Mm.
right? And you're not always going to be that fast.
Mm.
Um, so then I realized that belonging and that joy, I love what you said about joy because that's something I've always found in my sport. Um, it doesn't have to be you don't have to be fast to belong.
So that's a very interesting point because you studied in Harvard in the same time that you were doing rowing, right?
I started what?
You were studying in the same time
Oh, I was studying, yes.
while
Yeah, I did. I finished my undergraduate degree between my first and second Olympic Games, and I finished my law degree after my third Olympic Games
did you
and
get
all that
a
time.
full scholarship for Harvard?
I didn't. Harvard doesn't offer
Yeah,
athletic
it's interesting.
scholarships.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What made you choose for Harvard then?
Um, I really liked Boston. I really liked the team. I
Oh,
I
okay.
visited when I was looking at all the different schools,
Hmm.
and I remember the woman I was staying with took me to a hockey game, and a bunch of the rowers showed up, and we wrote Harvard across our stomachs, and we spent the whole game on our feet cheering for this. It was a women's hockey game for the hockey team, and I just loved how supportive everyone was of each other, and I thought I want to be a part of a team like that.
That's nice. I find it's very inspiring how the university system is organized around sports. You guys get
Mm.
into that professionalism very, very fast. Um,
Oh yeah.
how did you embrace that world? Because you know, in France, we're very shy. We have a good rowing team, but yeah, our we still think you need to do your best. It's okay. Just participate and it's okay. That's how we see sports in the even if we are top six, the top one of the best nation in the world in sports. We are ranked number six in France.
Mm.
But still, the mindset for becoming a professional athlete and thinking about all these other factors, it's not there. So how did you like mentally became a professional athlete and what did you do to make it like a real job, let's say?
Hmm. Um, it's interesting. I wish rowing was a professional sport. It's
Mm-hmm.
we actually when I started on the training with the Olympic team, the stipend was, I think, and I actually wasn't eligible for the stipend, but the top athletes were receiving $500 a month, which is,
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
that's right. That's like not even enough
Oh,
to cover your groceries.
really?
Um, so almost all of the athletes were either university age or just out of university.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was more just we loved the lifestyle of training, and some of us had help from our parents, some of us had part-time jobs. Most of us lived with families for free, so local families just, open their doors, let rowers
Yeah,
stay. So I would actually describe it as a very immature environment, and it almost makes me sad as I see it becoming more and more professional, if you will.
yeah,
Like there's more support. Like here's an example. Um, when we would go to competitions, mostly in Europe, where of course the hotel breakfast is
yeah.
free,
Mm.
our coach would say, "All right, well, we're going to be at the rowing course for lunch, and we don't have any plans for you for lunch, so you better like make yourself some sandwiches at breakfast and put them in your backpack." Right? Like,
Wow.
and now the team travels with a nutritionist who like has a whole food tent and a whole spread of food at the rowing course. And I remember, so this was in 2019, and I'm looking at this and I was like, kids these days, don't know how good they've got it. And I actually kind of remember fondly the days of like squirreling away food to eat for lunch from the hotel breakfast because it like I said, it was a labor of love. We did it because we loved it, not because it provided any kind of financial security. And there was a lightheartedness that went along with that.
Yes,
I think I mentioned that like I felt like there were some team dynamic kind of issues leading into Tokyo that I think probably hurt their performance.
yes,
It felt to me like everyone was so anxious about making the team, about, going fast, about doing everything right. Like they wouldn't,
Mm.
nobody went out partying. Nobody, I don't know, did stuff in the middle of the day, like interesting. Like we used to go on like field trips in the middle of the day because we would row in the morning, in the evening, in the middle of the day. We would do fun things. We would like have pool parties and things. Nobody did any of that because they were so focused on training and the competitiveness. And I think that actually, I mentioned like when you have this fear of failure, you don't perform as well. But if you
Yeah.
just show up and you're like, I'm having so much fun, I love this, you actually perform better. I think that this anxiety and this fear of not being good enough actually made the team slower. And a lot of what feeds into that is like feeling like, all right, this is my job and
Mm.
this is the only thing that I live for. Whereas when I started rowing with the national team, we all had all kinds of things going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look at this with perspective on the future, do you think there is some areas where your sport can become more professional, or do you really miss the old good days and it should stay like this?
Right. I sound like a has-been, just the good old days. Um, I think it's wonderful that athletes are better supported, right? That can be very stressful if you don't have enough money to buy groceries. Maybe just we need better strategies for handling the pressure.
Okay. Is that your lawyer career to do with that, or is there any correlation?
Oh, handling pressure. Um,
But also managing your career or making sure someone has enough resources and his or her rights are.
oh, right. Yeah. Actually, so I got involved with the Alumni Association, U.S. Olympians and Paralympians Association, which is
Mm,
affiliated with the U.S.
mm,
Olympic and Paralympic Committee,
yes.
partly because I wanted to make sure that, athletes had what they needed, and also going back to what we were talking about before, that athletes transitioning away from sport were
Yes.
better supported because you got this sense that people just sort of like got dropped off a cliff and like, bye-bye, see you later.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and it's a slow process, and I do think that things are getting better, but at the same time, as I mentioned, like the pressure is getting greater. So it's like we're always trying to play catch up.
Yeah. So
But yeah, mhm.
why did you become a lawyer?
Why did I? Oh gosh, I ask myself that all the time. But back to like training and having no money. I was living with a family who said, "We think you should be a lawyer, and we're going to pay for you to take an LSAT
Oh,
course."
okay.
LSAT is the entrance exam for law school,
Hmm.
and that cost $1,500, which was a lot of money for me. And I thought I can't turn them down. Like it's so I did the course and I got a good score and I got into a good law school and it just
Okay.
happened like that. Um,
Okay. But now with experience, is
why
this
am I
work?
still a lawyer?
Yes.
I asked myself that a lot when I was working at a big firm because there's a lot of stress and pressure working at a big firm and in some ways I handled it very well, but I also was, it wears you down. But now that I have my own practice, so I'm completely in charge, it is not stressful.
Mm,
And going back to like finding community and helping people accomplish their goals, I feel like that's what I do now in a way that, maybe I was before, but that I didn't notice it. Now my clients, I help them, they call me with a problem and I help them figure it out. And a lot of the times it doesn't even really need a lawyer. It more just needs a tough conversation. Um, all right, let's get real about your options and, who you need to talk to. And they're so thankful afterwards. Like you can just feel the tension leave the room where they're like, I feel so much better.
It
Thank you so
is
much.
it that they feel that you really understand them, like you understand the grinding and you understand the setbacks and you understand how to figure out, how, do you think that this is related, like that kind of?
I I do think that's part of it because I always start, if someone comes to me with a problem, instead of jumping straight to solutions, I always say, man, I'm so sorry you're going through that. That's really hard.
Mm,
Because the first thing people just want to be acknowledged, right? They want to be seen.
mhm.
And we can't even get to the solutions before we acknowledge that because when you're in this fight or flight state, like you can't see the solution. You're just too amped up and too upset. And so once, we kind of all take a collective deep breath, then I say, okay, here are
Mhm.
your options. Here's what we're going to do about this. And I do think that that makes me a much better lawyer and that makes me much more helpful to my clients.
What is your specialization as a lawyer? What do you focus on?
I work with startups, especially female founders, and I help them with all the kinds of obstacles you might run into starting a company. I help them with financings, hiring employees, even incorporating the company, issuing equity, um, all those all those things, all the make or break moments of building a
Well,
business.
for a lawyer, startup is not really a great investment, or is it or not?
Yes, it is. Sometimes I have to wait quite a while before I get paid.
Yes. Do you involve from the beginning, like from zero to scale up, or how?
I
When do you jump on?
Ideally, yeah. Ideally, people call me before they even have incorporated because I've
Mm,
had some clients call who are quite far in the process and they've been working with lawyers who don't really know how to do that. Maybe it's a friend of a friend who, actually specializes in something else. And often there are some serious problems. One of my clients actually got into some serious litigation because their cap table was a mess and nobody knew who owned how much equity. And now a former employee is suing saying he should have gotten more equity. And the fact is, it's impossible to figure out because there are six different documents saying six different things. And it's been months, they're still in
mm,
court. And of course, when you start out, you think it's not a big deal, right? This company isn't worth anything. But once the company is worth 50 million, then it's actually quite important. A half a
mhm.
percent this way or that way makes a lot of difference in terms of money. So, it's a lot cheaper and better if people call me sooner rather than later.
That's so interesting because we are really in the middle of the startup bubble. It started quite some time ago, but now it's
Mm.
more and more people just jump into that, becoming a startup owner. What is the role of a lawyer in a startup? Because do you make the connection between the stakeholders and the investors, or are you a VC yourself? The
No,
whole dynamic. Where do you position yourself?
in terms of the raising money aspect, I'm kind of between the founders and the VC.
Mhm.
I do know VCs. I can make introductions, but most founders find their own sources of funding. So I end up doing the negotiations. I make sure that it's a real partnership between the funders and the founders
Mhm.
rather than a adversarial
Yes.
relationship.
So we know that if you don't have a lawyer, you take well, we don't know actually. You can tell us like, now that's your expertise. Like if you are a startup founder and you make an agreement and you don't have a lawyer,
Hmm.
that is that a risk or I know the answer, maybe, but like, why would that be relevant to have a lawyer when you are a
Yeah,
pre-seed or early stage
right,
startups where actually there is no money?
right. Honestly, it depends on the type of agreement. There are a lot of agreements that you don't really need a lawyer. If someone asks you to sign an NDA, you can probably just,
Yeah.
that's a non-disclosure agreement.
Yes.
You can probably just sign it. Even a lot of contractor agreements, if you just download a form from the internet, it's probably fine. I think there are two main areas
Yeah.
that um, that are just really important from the start.
Mm,
It's basically who owns what. I say two areas. It really is one category, who owns what.
mm,
But the two areas are who owns the company. So your cap table, you want to make sure you know who owns how much of the company because that becomes really important when comes time to sell the company.
yes.
And then what does the company own? Again, might not seem so important at the start, and especially when I think people can trip up when it comes to intellectual property.
Yeah.
For example, like have all your contractors sign an agreement that
Mm,
says anything they create belongs to the company. Because if you don't, then if the company doesn't own what you think it owns, you can't sell it. You can't sell something you don't own.
mm.
So ultimately, it comes down to ownership. And whenever there's those things involved, you should probably get a lawyer to at least look it over.
Okay, so that's the first level. Is there other ways to, if you are a startup funder, to secure your investments with your partners? Because I
Oh
know
yeah.
some people, they just signed up and they don't know that actually at the end of the day you don't own anything. And
Oh right. Like
there
you
are
have
some
to issue
equity
equity to
shares.
yourself. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Um, yeah, that's kind of going back to that first, like who owns the company.
Yeah.
It's a it's very difficult at the start to figure out if you've got a bunch of people who have an idea and they're kind of
Mhm.
working on it. It's very difficult to figure out who should get what.
Mhm.
And ultimately, it's a very personal decision. Like I can help guide, but I can't tell you like this is how it should be. I can just say, well, here's how other people have approached
Yeah.
this, and here's some obstacles or issues you might run into in future that you might want to think about, before we get there. Um, and then, but as you said, once they decide like who, how are we going to work together? How's this going to look? Then you need to find someone to write that down, right? To like put that in an agreement
Mm.
because it's pretty common that founders, you come together, you're kind of getting married, everyone's happy, and then a couple years later, one person wants to go off and do something else, and it's not going as you thought, and all of a sudden, people remember differently, like what was the agreement at the start, and if it's not written down, like then you can get some expensive disagreements.
Expensive, yes.
Kind of like,
What are you excited the most with that kind of work? If you can make a correlation with your sports journey, what is so inspiring for you to be a lawyer for female founders? Where do you find
yeah.
like that sense of belonging, let's say, or that joy, that excitement? You could have chosen another area.
Yeah. I especially love working with women because at risk of generalization, they're often more collaborative and more willing to take take my advice.
Ah, okay.
So ultimately I feel like I can be more helpful
Mhm.
and that's really why I do what I do because I want to help people. Um, just before I quit my job at this big law firm where I was working on these big deals, like
Yeah.
$1 billion mergers,
Okay.
huge deals. And the client like didn't even know who I was, right? Like I'm just a cog in a wheel.
Mm.
I went to my father's retirement party, and he was a professor at Cornell for 47 years.
Oh.
And at this party, his former students flew in from around the world. And there was an open mic session, and people came up to the mic and they told stories about how my father had helped them.
Mhm.
He loaned his car to someone for a month once, or
Wow.
helped them get a job or whatever.
Mm.
Um, and I sat there and I thought, if I continue on the trajectory I'm on now, no one is going to come to my retirement party and talk about how I helped them because they don't even know my name, right? And now I feel like that might actually happen. Like I work closely with people who rely on me for not just legal advice, but personal advice too. Like a lot of times when people call me, I'd say, look, this isn't a legal problem, it's a personal problem, but let's figure out how to solve it.
Ah,
Um,
great. Yeah.
so I feel like I am being so much more helpful.
Mm,
And then, going back to that gives me a sense of belonging and community. Like
mm.
I'm building my community of people who hopefully will come to my retirement party.
That's so interesting because you could have, like, you have win a gold medal and still all that sparkling and shining made you realize, well, this is a journey, part of the journey, and you just down on earth. And as lawyer, you could have also keep staying in that go Olympic
Hmm.
medal firm, let's say, like the big firms,
Yeah, like a partner at a big firm. Yeah.
and then also to feel like, okay, that sparkling is just not as amazing that it is. And this is a very important message. And for high performers, those who say, yeah, one
Yeah.
day I'm going to be part of this big four. Once I'm going to be part of that company, and
Hmm.
the Olympians to become, and who also think, I'm going to make it to the Olympics. I'm going to be an Olympic champion. Like, what is the main advice you would give them?
Get really clear about what it is you really want, because chances are it's not actually an Olympic gold medal or, advancing to top level position in your company. I think a lot of times we strive towards those things because we want what we think will come with it, which is really admiration and love from the people around us.
Mhm.
And it may or may not. And even if it does, then you don't want to be loved for your accomplishments. You want to be loved for who you are. And if you are forgetting to be your best self on the road to accomplishing what you think is your goal,
Mm,
then you're going to feel quite empty afterwards. So
mm,
when you have a goal, ask yourself, why do I want this goal? Okay, I I want an Olympic gold medal. Why? Because I want to stand on the podium and, have everyone applaud me. Well, why? Because I want people to like me. Well, why? And for me, it always came back to because I want to belong. And
yeah,
winning a gold medal is not necessarily the best way to get there.
yeah. The USA is a very strong team. I mean, you're the best in the world in so many sports, and that's not for nothing. I can remember every time for example, the opening ceremony, then Team USA is like a ocean of people,
So many. Well,
and then
yes.
everybody's like, this is the best of the best. And I don't know any sport where USA are not dominant. So how can you dare to say that? I'm a
Hmm.
little bit trying to push a little bit because some athletes say like it's go or die. I mean, you don't make it,
Yeah.
you die like you nobody. You don't get nothing. You can't sustain your life. So how? Yeah,
Well,
why do you say that?
well, in a weird way, I almost think it's easier for me to say, right? Because I'm just there are 50, the US brings home like 50 gold medals every summer games, right? Like
Yeah.
I am not famous. I got very little in terms of monetary reward when I won, right? So almost by default, I can't make that my only defining
Mm,
moment. Like I gotta come home and I'm just some woman on the street to most people, right? Like I've never been recognized walking down the street in the United States. No one has ever stopped me and said, "Oh my God, I saw you on TV." Um, and I had to figure out how to make a living. So, it's interesting. It's interesting hearing like how it looks from outside, like the American
yes,
team, right?
yes.
But from inside, it's like you're just one of a sea of people, and that's part of why we're so successful. We have so many people. If you've got enough people, you're gonna find the talent, right?
Mm,
But then you're just one of many talented athletes from the United States. So I like to think that yeah, my Olympic success, it certainly helped made me I am, but it does not define me.
Yeah. And we can find this all actually at the end, to be very aware, like have this conscience of, even if we are trying to change our life or have a better life, for some athletes, this is no way out, there's no other way, let's say. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, is to be more aware of what you're really running for, or
Yeah.
let's say what you're running from. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it helps the journey to be more digestible, let's say.
And if all the things you want are only attainable in the future, you'll never get there, right?
Mhm.
Like if you always have goals that you can't, like I cannot accomplish my goal today, then you'll never really get there.
Yeah.
Um, that was why I mentioned, like I set very I thought about my goals very carefully when I came back for 2020,
Yeah.
and I made them ones that I could, at the end of every day, I could say, did I accomplish my goal today? Was I a good teammate today? Did I learn something?
Mm.
Um,
That's
because
so.
even if your goal, like let's say your goal is winning a competition, right? I say
Mm.
you can never get there. Well, yeah, you might win the competition, but immediately afterwards,
Mm.
then you have to find something else in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You are a mother, and you have a son, right?
Yeah, he's 2 years old.
This new generation of athletes, they seem to be more tapping into that kind of holistic approach to performance and well-being.
Yeah.
What would you like give to your child from that experience if he wants to become a professional athlete? Or do you feel like there is a stereotype, okay, in Europe, is that we all think that because you're an Olympic champion, your child is going to become,
Oh, yeah.
like there's no way out,
Right.
like most of Olympic
Right.
champions, they put their children in the same sport and they make it a
Right.
piece, the return.
Huh. I
What is
mean,
your mindset on that?
I can see why people say that because I think a lot of success is just being exposed, right? Like, what if that coach had never approached me in the supermarket? I would never have rowed. Like, my parents didn't know
Mm.
anything about it, right? So, at least if your parents are Olympic champions themselves, you will be exposed to a sport or more, maybe more,
Mm.
and then you can try it. And okay, it might not work, but it might. So I hope to expose my son to all kinds of different sports and also non-sports. I take him to music class. Like I
Yeah,
want him to find something that he loves and it doesn't matter what it is.
yeah. So you don't have, let's be honest, no speculation, no projection. Like the next Olympics, or Brisbane 2032.
I would love if he rowed because I think it's a
Uh,
great sport,
yeah,
but it doesn't matter whether he's successful. I just want him to find, like I said, I want him to find something that he loves. And if he doesn't love it the way I did, then that's fine. And when I think about what I most want for him, like what kind of person I want him to be,
mhm.
I actually tell him this. He doesn't understand what I'm saying, but I tell him, I want you to be the kind of kid that sticks up for other kids that you see getting picked on. Like, I
Mm.
want him to feel confident enough in
Oh,
himself that
yeah,
he can stick up for someone else and compassionate enough that he sees someone who's unhappy and comes over and says, hey, man, I'll be your friend. Like, that's the kind of person I want him to be. And beyond that, yeah, all the other stuff is
yeah. You don't have to
not
be
important.
competing against someone to prove yourself. You don't have to
Yeah.
diminish another to get the spot. You have to be whole,
Yeah.
complete. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Caryn. This is amazing conversation. I have learned so much. Just to finish, one little question on motherhood, pregnancy, getting back in shape. What
Hmm.
was your, like? How did you got back in shape? How did you leave your pregnancy? Did you gain I don't know how many kilos or pounds quickly, because it's also for many women, high level women, high achievers, they kind of postpone pregnancy because it's never
Mm,
the right time. I'm never going to get
mhm,
back on track. But we as athletes, female athletes, we know that it is possible. It is
mm.
possible, but yeah, until we go through it. I went to the Olympics of Rio 9 months after giving birth, and
That's amazing.
it was my most inspiring experience of my whole journey as an Olympian, actually. How how did you live your pregnancy? Were you still into sport or not? And how did you get back,
Yeah.
let's say?
At the start of my pregnancy, I really struggled because I'm so used to being in complete control of my body. And
Yeah.
suddenly I wasn't. Like there was this little thing growing inside me that I had no control over. And that was really difficult. I rode not competitively, but like I rode up until 7 months pregnant. And
Mm.
at that was the point where I was like, okay, well, my belly's too big. I can't do this anymore. And interestingly, that was the point where I started to enjoy pregnancy. I went swimming instead, but I just finally accepted because I had no other choice that
7 months. Mm.
that life is different now. Like I am limited in ways that I wouldn't choose, but that's just the way it is.
Mhm.
And then I realized like, oh, actually, like there's a lot of things to love about about what my body can do. Like that's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Mm.
And so I'm actually pregnant right now. I'm determined to enjoy it this time around, like from the
You're
start.
pregnant right now?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
congratulations.
approaching it completely differently instead
Yeah.
of kind of railing against being frustrated by all the changes and the things that I suddenly can't do. I'm
Yeah.
just accepting it, like trying to give myself a little bit more grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Mm-hmm.
that really happened, that really helped postpartum after I gave birth because I was able to accept that like this is the new me and yeah, I can't do a lot of the things I used to do, which is part of why I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you went to the games 9 months afterwards. Like for me, the whole postpartum journey was about just accepting that standards are lower, like, and I am still a good person and I am still me, even though I can't do the things that I used to do. Um, so it has definitely been a journey in self-compassion, just allowing myself to judge myself by different standards.
And physically, how did you train? Did you do walking? Did you put a scrap on your belly? Like, give us a little tip, a little secrets that we can implement at home.
Oh, postpartum, I found running very difficult because I just felt like
Yes.
my entire insides were gonna like fall out. Um, but actually, the rowing machine was very good
Oh,
because I
yeah.
have one at home, and so I like the first day I was like, I'm gonna do 5 minutes. And
Mm.
then the next week I was like, I'm gonna do 10 minutes. And I got up to about 25 minutes and I was like, whoop, too much. Let's go back to 15 minutes. Right. My warm up used to be longer than that, right? But
Okay.
I was like, it doesn't like anything is something.
Yeah, the rowing
And
machine is amazing. No suspension, and but
right.
you're still doing a good cardio, right? And you all your muscles are engaged, and
Yeah.
you get rid of that internal fat, let's say, around the belly.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't even really worried about the fat. And I didn't even care if I sweat or not. Like I usually didn't even change my clothes because I was like, I'm not really gonna sweat. But it was more about just making sure that I did something for myself every
Mm.
day or well, okay, it wasn't
Oh,
every day,
wonderful.
but like several times a week. And now actually similarly, just with a toddler, there's no time to do anything. So I stick him
Yes,
in the stroller and I go for a walk and I'm like, you know what? I did something today.
yes.
Um,
So every day you look for one little goal to achieve, or
yeah, or several times a week, shall we say.
oh yes, okay.
Um, yeah, I'm finally at a point in my life where I am okay not judging myself by the standards to
Mm.
which I held myself for probably too long.
Yeah. Mm.
And that doesn't mean that I've completely lost all, sense of wanting to live a healthy life. It just
Mm.
means that it looks different now than it did before.
Mm. Amazing. Thank you so much, Caryn.
Thank you. This has been really nice.